This is the new GoPro HERO 9 Black brutally honest review. In this video, I'm going to show you guys 15 pros and cons to this new camera, and some of the cons are actually a pretty big deal that no one is talking about. Is the HERO 9 worth the higher price tag? Speaking of price, let's start right there. Con number one, GoPro has raised the price to $450. In the past, they usually launch around $400. So this HERO 9 feels like $50 more. Now, funny enough, my complaint doesn't stop with the price hike, but when I was buying on GoPro.com, there was some shady bundling going on that made me confused and frustrated. Oh, and if you don't care about this pricing part, jump ahead to my next timestamp. I'll put all the chapter markers down below for you to skip around. Now, first it says GoPro 9, only $350 with a 1-year subscription. Then when I view my shopping cart, it shows HERO 9 only $299. Well, that seems like a no-brainer, right? A new HERO 9 discounted from $449 to $299? But then, right before I hit checkout, I find the tiny disclaimer. Customer may cancel the subscription portion of the bundle post-purchase and acknowledges they will be charged the full retail price of the camera. Wait, what? I have so many questions. So if I cancel the subscription in a week from now, am I still paying that $50 subscription fee that I only use for a week, and then I also get charged the full price $450 HERO 9 on top of that, so $500 total? Or if I cancel one day before it auto renews next year, do I still get charged the $100? Or if I cancel one day late, will it cost me another $50 for a new year? And then if I cancel, will they prorate it for me? And then I told myself maybe all this subscription stuff could be helpful for me. It gives me unlimited cloud storage. Well, I guess I'll never use that. Up to 50% off shopping on GoPro.com. Nah, I rarely buy from there. And total camera replacement. Okay, cool. Maybe if I destroy my HERO 9, I can get a free replacement. Wrong again, the deductible fee seems to be another $99 on top of it all. So honestly, from my perspective, it's unneeded bundling and confusion for the buyer. It feels a little shady and confusing, and I know I'm not alone as I heard agreement from you guys on my Instagram and scrolling through the GoPro subreddit. Now stay tuned, in my next videos, I'll be comparing this new HERO 9 to the HERO 8 and HERO 7, as well as versus DJI Osmo Action and Insta360 ONE-R. You won't want to miss those, all links down below. On to pro number one, the HERO 9 finally has dual screens, front and back. After some days of testing, I actually found that the front screen is a lot more useful than I thought it would be. Firstly, yes, we can have both screens turned on at the same time even when recording, and this is a pretty major deal for me because I'm constantly flipping the camera forwards and backwards, changing perspectives. Having the front screen help frame up my shots, like HERO's mounted up on my helmet unicorn, or sometimes when it's dangling off my back bar. Both of those mounts from Insta360, linked below. It was great and helpful to frame up the camera, and sure, it's a little stuttering sometimes, but I didn't find it a problem, and overall it was helpful to have dual screens on at the same time. Pro number two, we can record video up to 5K 30 FPS. I recorded plenty of clips in both 4K and 5K, trying to determine A, could I actually see the difference in quality and pixels, and B, if this was a useful new feature or simply a puff piece. Well, I can honestly say that I definitely notice a sharpness and clarity difference when shooting in 5K. It's those little details come out looking just a tad sharper than 4K. Now when I freeze frame and zoom in and pixel peep, there's still a little bit of mushiness. There's no way this replaces a professional mirrorless camera or anything, but it's an ultra wide action camera and it looks pretty good. Is it as sharp as my 1-inch sensor on my Insta360 ONE-R? I don't think so, but stay tuned for that comparison coming soon. In 5K mode, we don't have 60 FPS and no super view, and my GoPro was constantly freezing up with trying to record in 5K. What a perfect little segue into my con number two. This HERO 9 is just as buggy and glitchy as previous models. It's almost like it can't be a GoPro without the bugs. I made sure firmware was up to date and using micro SD cards that were best compatible. Alright, so good old GoPro is not without glitching or freezing. As you can see, it's not really working, and when we try to turn that off or swipe or whatever, press buttons, nothing is working. So then we gotta do the old GoPro hack, pull the battery and do a reboot. And check it out, a second time, it is frozen. I've tried pressing the power button and stop recording, tried controlling through the app, and check it out, just froze again. So janky. This is the third time it's frozen on me. Actually, fourth. The only way to fix it is a battery pull. Check it out, here's the glitch where I just unplugged it from charging and the red lights are still on as if it's charging. And then the only way to fix it is the battery pull. Frozen. Wow. So janky. I can even show you guys the corrupt unplayable files left on my SD card from those freezing problems. So yeah, in less than a week, I've had the boot up issues, charging issues, freezing when trying to record clips, constantly pulling battery to fix it. I really wish GoPro would have upgraded the processor to maybe a GP2 chip. I think that they're still using the GP1 chip, which is old, like from Hero 6 in 2017. That's 3 years old now. It's just my personal guess, but I wonder if this camera had better internal specs, would we possibly have less glitching and freezing issues? Another test that you guys can see this slower chip. Snap an HDR super photo and the processing takes a few beats. It's sort of annoying when we have these phones in our pockets with ultra wide lenses, we hit that shutter button and almost instantly with that processing of super dynamic and high res angle of shot, for a dedicated camera product, I'd expect better. Jumping back to a few more pros, pro number 3, we have HyperSmooth 3.0, even smoother stabilization, and it really does look buttery smooth. It feels like there's a ton of different shooting modes and resolutions now, and I'm often left pondering which settings are the best for different scenarios. Do I do 5K or 4K 30 or 4K 60, super view or wide, hypersmooth on or with boost? And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, I love having so many options, but until I find my favorites, I'd love to hear what your guys's are. Leave me a comment down below. I'm sort of bouncing between them all. On the note of stabilization, pro number 4, we finally have a feature I've been asking for years. They call it horizon leveling. Now the downside is it needs to be in linear field of view, probably because it crops so far into frame, but this basically allows the horizon to stay almost perfectly level and stable up to about a 45-degree angle. It produces some buttery smooth gimbal-like shots, and it's definitely one of my favorite features to use. There's plenty of use cases when you won't want this turned on and you want your viewer to feel the angle of tilt of your camera, but then in other times for cinematic and specific action shots, to have a locked horizon produces some awesome, cool looking footage. Pro number 5, max lens mod potential. Now oddly enough, it's not out yet, and funny enough, the mods from last year's Hero 8 didn't do so hot, so I'm guessing I'm not holding my breath for this year, but this uber wide 155-degree max lens mod looks really cool, not just giving us an even wider field of view, but more specifically, we can turn on this horizon lock mode. As an experiment, we can turn on this max video mode, even now without the mod, and it's cropped into the frame quite a bit, but this allows us to rotate the camera a full 360 degrees of rotation, and it keeps the horizon level and locked and flat the entire time, and this is so cool. It's what I'm calling almost a game-changing feature. We've been able to do this before on the Insta360 Go, but that was only 1080p, and we could also do this on the Insta360 One R, but we needed the 360 mod, and after reframing, the resolution was around 1080p as well. So I'd almost call this a gimbal mode, because it's like we have the GoPro mounted on a gimbal, and no matter which way I angle or tilt the camera, through EIS, it's keeping my horizon level and verticals locked. It's pretty awesome. One big catch to keep in mind, and I found this when I first copied the files over to my computer, when viewing them on a larger screen, larger than a phone, I can clearly see how tight it crops into the sensor for stability, and since that max res is only 2.7K, the footage quality doesn't look all that crazy sharp, but it's still a fun option to have, and of course this is all without using that max lens mod that should help with some of this, offering a wider field of view. Con number 3, I was really hoping for a game-changing frame rates like 4K 120 or 1080 480. Even a 720p at 960 would have been beautiful to see. This is an action camera after all, and if smartphones can shoot 1,000 frames per second even at small bursts, I really wish my GoPro could do the same. Pro number 6, we now have a larger rear touchscreen, and as I'm sure you've heard, the whole body of the Hero 9 has been slightly enlarged from the Hero 8, which it still fits in my pocket or wherever, so I'm not mad about that slightly larger size, but that larger camera body gave us a slightly larger screen to more easily play back our footage or toggle settings. Even the physical buttons feel slightly larger and more clicky, which I really like. It could be a placebo effect, but I'm not complaining. Unfortunately, we still have those outdated looking chunky bezels, and if my 2-year-old DJI Osmo Action could do it, kinda stinks we're still not seeing it here yet. And while on this point, yes, the touchscreen is still a little sluggish with its animations, and even the taps are sometimes not recognized. And this is kind of frustrating for a brand new expensive action camera in 2020. I would have really hoped we'd have a better touchscreen by now. It almost feels capacitive touch, you know, where you gotta tap hard for its presses to be recognized. Pro number 7, we can snap 20 megapixel photos. HDR and Super Photo produce some pretty looking shots. Sharpness and clarity are pretty good. If we start zooming in, it sort of turns into that oil-like painting look, and I never recommend anyone to get a GoPro just for photography. If you have the latest iPhone or Galaxy wide angle, you might get similar looking photos. In low light, they look okay. We still have some noise and grain and soft looking details. In even lower light, it turns out pretty mushy and not so great looking. However, if we turn on night mode, place the camera on a tripod for stability, then it gives us some nicer, much cleaner and brighter looking photos that I could definitely use. In a couple of these, I turned the lights off for almost pitch black, and it still turned out some fairly. I recorded a couple low light. In this one, I shot 5K with max ISO set to 3200, and it looks a bit cleaner and more usable, but still a bit of that motion blur from EIS. And this is probably the limit I wouldn't go above. Pro number 8, we finally got our replaceable lens cover back. To say it subtly, there were a lot of people who didn't purchase the Hero 8 for this very reason, so it's nice to see it come back. Pro number 9, there's some fun new shooting modes like scheduled recordings, perfect for capturing those sunrises, let's say if you don't want to get up at the crack of dawn. There's hindsight, continuously caching footage up to 30 seconds, allows for trigger recording after the action. This is a great feature to have, especially in those slow motion shots. Con at number 4, the battery door and USB port still kinda stinks in my opinion. The battery door can be difficult to open or close if the thumb screw's on that side, plus the door must be left open when charging. I'm hoping to get my hands on that better designed battery cover from Telescene. The door latch feels more secure and it doesn't pop off as easily as the Hero 8, but I'd love to see a better engineered design. Con at number 5, whatever GoPro does with its HEVC codec or compression, even on my $6,000 iMac Pro, its video files play back jittery and glitchy, and my friends have the same issues on their different computers. Lastly, pro number 10, a few small bonuses. The Hero 9 has a larger battery size, not necessarily equates to longer battery life with dual displays turned on. And I just got back from some scooter shots. I was about fully charged, gone for an hour, and we're down to 46%. So battery life is okay. Maybe expect a couple hours out of a full charge with on and off recording. The folding fingers feel a tad better, maybe some micro adjustments were made. The flip up and down have a bit more friction to them and less wiggle and easier to screw down tight for a more rigid mount. I also appreciate the zippered carrying case included in the package. And one wish list item I'd like to add, I think the display should have an ambient light sensor, just like our phones, so it knows to auto dim and save battery when we're inside, but then if I step outside in the bright sun, auto brighten that display for me, and give us a 1/4-20 tripod mount underneath between the folding fingers, just like this connector mod from Telescene. It looks genius. Now, what do you guys think of the new Hero 9? There's plenty of cool pros on the list, but some major cons as well, like that glitching and freezing issue. I really hope a firmware update can fix that, but I'm not holding my breath given a certain track record. $450 is still a lot of money, and there's a lot of competition out there. Come back for my upcoming comparisons, and I'll see you guys next time.